To align with nature, you have to first know why you want what you want. Ask the question, why do I want what I want, right? And if I don't get it, am I okay with it? Because that resistance towards not being okay with it is what pushes you in that inevitable situation. You become what you fear most. And you attract what you are. You become what you fear most, and you attract what you are. What you can change is the feelings and the vibrations. What you can't change is the outward form, because the inward vibrations create the outward form. I have to accept responsibility, not blame. Not blame because the ego wants to blame, because that's when it hurts. You're like, it's my fault. No. You're not understanding. Something in you manifested this. And you've got to look at it from a compassionate approach. Why did I manifest? What do we ultimately want? It's one word and it starts with F. And everybody wants that. Freedom. That's the one thing we want. But do you know what freedom looks like? You have a perception in your mind of what freedom is. And most people think freedom is being able to do whatever you want with whoever you want or nobody, having to not do anything, which is the antithesis of life. Because freedom is actually being surrounded by many people, being most of service to people. And part of freedom is having something useful to do in your life. Yet we say we want to break out of it and we want to do nothing. Actually, doing nothing is not how we're designed. You actually find yourself very miserable. So your striving for freedom is very, like, think about it. This ground, I remember reading in the Zen thing, is that the ground supports your feet, right? So if the ground wanted to be free, you wouldn't have anything to work on, right? But so freedom is contribution. Freedom is having so many people around you. And that's the whole thing when they did the surveys of the blue zones and people that lived over in the, over 100, is that what was common amongst all these people is that they had someone to take care of, that their lives had deeper meaning, that it was never about themselves only. Now you're living free of expectation, and everything that you get becomes this wonderful gift, like, oh, this warm coffee tastes so good. Otherwise, you go around every time you have warm coffee, well, I expected the warm coffee. It would be a terrible place to live if everybody got what they wanted. So life has made sure that some people get it and some people don't. So part of it is that I don't want it, I don't need it for my existence, but it would be nice to get. Neville Goddard basically learnt his art of law of attraction from a rabbi, actually, and he taught him the sacred arts of law of attraction and what this is. And if you go into it, you'll find that the law of attraction is whatever I've said is the law of attraction. And then you'd say, but that doesn't make sense, because your idea of the law of attraction, not you guys, because a lot of you have spent time with me and have irritated the crap out of you redefining what that is, right? It's like, but so you don't just sit there going, I want to be rich, I'm terrible because I'm poor, I want to be healthy because I'm sick, so I'm not happy. But you guys know this game. Now let's look what the law of attraction says. If it aligns with this approach, if you can change this approach to life, then does it mean you're going to manifest everything that you set out to manifest? So you write on the piece of paper, right? What is it that you want? What is it that you want, and why do I want it? Right? Think about everything that you want in your life. What do you get out of the thing that you want at the end? What do you get out of it? Right? Do you get the thing? So you want 10 million pounds. So put 10 million pounds on the table. What do you get out of it at that moment? What do you get? A feeling, right? If you want perfect health, and I say you're in perfect health, what do you get? The feeling, right? I want to be highly successful and become whatever it is. What do you get? How long does that feeling last? A day, two, got to 10 million pounds, you go on your yacht and you buy caviar and listen to some operas, which I highly recommend. But then, what do you do then? What's that feeling when you've achieved that thing? There's nothing, right? So then, instead of living in the future of achieving that thing, and so I will live in a terrible state right now all the time until I get that feeling. So how about you live like every single moment in that feeling of having achieved that without wanting to achieve that? That's the secret. That's the trick, right? Because you say, well, what's the point? Well, what you want out of that is not the thing. You want the feeling of the thing. So how about you shortcut 40 years of your life and start living in that feeling? And guess what the law of attraction says? The law of vibration, the 7 sacred principles revealed by Hermes Trismegistus, who is the beginning of all of this, and is known in the sacred texts as well as Enoch, right? He was one of the prophets, right? And then in all the other texts, he's referred in the Egyptians as Thoth, and he was this man who knew the sacred laws of the universe, and all of existence that you see is not out there. So if you were not here, would this world exist? You can't answer that question, can you? So then maybe you being here in your mind is creating all of existence. And if that's true, maybe you can do something with what you've created and what you can change, right? Because if it's all mind and I created this reality, then I can surely somehow navigate it. What you can change and what you can't change is what we need to talk about. Nature. What is nature and why is nature so important? Oxford Dictionary has a description of nature, and according to the Oxford Dictionary, the definition of nature is the plants, the animals, the trees and grass, everything other than human beings, which is an incorrect definition because we're not excluded from nature. We are nature. We're part of nature. We're one with nature. And so that's where the whole thing has started, where we separate ourselves from nature. So if you go into nature, what happens to you? Nature means the forest, the oceans, and another sacred place is the library. So there is a spirit and there's an energy surrounding these places. So think about it. Whenever you're near the ocean, what happens to you? A calmness comes over you. When you're in nature, something happens to you. When you're in libraries and bookstores, something happens. I mean, I don't know if all of you are the same, but I love hanging around bookstores or libraries, just going in, and there's something that's transmitted in there. It's the sacred knowledge, it's knowledge that are shared. And so a friend of mine said that's where the angels are. Right? The angels surround these places because they are sacred. So what ends up happening for us as human beings, we have the ego mind. And the ego mind has a belief, I need to achieve this, I need to become this, I need to do this, I need to do that. And nature doesn't seem to have a mind, right? Nature doesn't sit there going, tomorrow morning I need to check my emails, I need to send this, I need to go here. Yet everything is done. Everything gets done in nature, yet there's no effort. Have you recognized that? So if you go into nature and you sit still, you notice nature gets everything done. So Lao Tzu, who I quote a lot, wrote a book called the Tao Te Ching, and Lao Tzu was a Taoist teacher. Tao is a ancient Chinese way of existing, and the Tao Te Ching, in there Lao Tzu says, nature does not hurry, yet everything gets done. If you look at our lives, we're trying to get somewhere. We're trying to get things done. So the first step is to recognize, I have these goals, I have these dreams, I have these ambitions. This is the things that I want. Now, how do I get them? Right? So if we do it the way humans have been going around doing it, it would seem that something's disconnected, because why are there 100,000 books on the law of manifestation? Why is there hundreds of thousands of books on finding your joy and your meaning and your purpose? Surely there should be just one guide. Okay, you want to manifest and create your reality, you follow this guide. Why isn't that everybody? What's your human desire? So let's look at what humans desire. Wealth, abundance, success, which is all linked, happy relationships, avoidance of sickness or pain or discomfort. And they want meaning as well. They want purpose and meaning. So all these things that human beings want, surely if it all meant the same to all of us, you'd say, meaning, this is what you should get. Now imagine if everybody became abundant and the whole planet, everybody who sat there, closed their eyes and went to a meditation class and they manifested 10 million pounds and all of them had 10 million pounds, right? What would you need to do then with your life? Like, what would be the purpose of life, right? What would be useful in life? So if everybody had perfect health, the perfect relationships, just think about that. A universe where, or planet where everybody got whatever they wanted. Did you imagine that, right? It sounds wonderful, but actually it's very anti-human. The funny thing is, if you study dopamine in the human body, dopamine is released from the striving towards something. right? And the moment you get something, dopamine stops, right? So we live in a society right now. There's a wonderful book called Dopamine Nation, Anna Lemke, and in that she talks about how because we're on Instagram and the other type of social media, we're constantly being gratified, right? So we're constantly getting that. We get the dopamine, and then we go to the next one, we get the dopamine. Every story, every great storyteller builds up a story, right? And then he walked into the park, and then he found, there was a sound of wolves. Then he became agitated, and you start seeing in you something, this anticipation. At that point, your dopamine is surging, right? When you hear stories of a person who's, encountered illness, and they had this horrible disease, and then did they die? And when you say they died, there's no dopamine. And then they went on this journey, and then they discovered this about themselves. Now, at that point, you're waiting to hear how their life changed. At that point, your dopamine is surging, which means that if you got what you want, your dopamine would not function because we are biologically wired to not have what we want. If you get what you want, dopamine shuts down. So think about it. So what people do is they create these hugely ambitious goals. I want this, like I want the best relationship in the world. I want the most money. I want the happiest life ever. Because if you had to look around at what you've got, enough money to pay the bills, a partner that's reasonably good, your health is okay, what would there be to achieve? So what we do is we set highly ambitious things. Why? Because we know biologically, we need dopamine. We need that thing we can't get. So what we do is we set these goals that are impossible to get. That's part of the wiring that you have to know. We are biologically, and look at what the planet has achieved today. Imagine if everybody said, we don't need new buildings, we don't need technology, we'll just live on, all the fruits and, whatever else that we can eat. Who needs to do anything? Why do we have to build anything? Why do we have to strive? So out of that process of this great need to get dopamine, right? And you don't actually get dopamine as a result of what you aspire to get. You get dopamine in your journey towards that. That's the trick that you have to get. Now, the fuel that you use, knowing that you have to set very ambitious goals. Because if you said, I just want to have 10 pounds a month, and I will live in the mountains, and I will fish once a day, you wouldn't feel like living. So now you've got to set these very ambitious goals. But you have to know the trick of evolution, of what you're trying to achieve. Because otherwise you get lost in the process, and you're like, I can't get that. And I get upset, and then people in the UK have got the highest suicide rates in the world. Because people are not getting what they want. I was just telling Maria, in Africa, you have people that are extremely poor. 7 million people a day apparently are at the point of starvation, which means they will die if they don't get food, right? Every day we have this problem of major poverty and lack of nutrition. I'm from Africa, so I see it all the time. But nobody wants to take their lives. It's quite ironic. Whereas here in the UK, you can get a plate of food, which means you won't die, right? So your survival is taken care of. Yet people are feeling this great lack of living. They don't want to live. And then you have people in Africa going, what's driving them? I was talking to Maria last night. I said, if you are at the point of starvation and for the last 200 days, no food has come, you've been eating whatever scraps have been left over, you've been drinking dirty, polluted water, surely you'd say, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to end my life. And then I would look at that going, yeah, maybe you should, right? But biologically, yeah, because it's hopeless. And then you have these other situations where food's taken care of, you've got a roof over your head, it may not be perfect, yet you want to take your own life, and then you actually take your life. So what's going on here? So what's driving us? And so what we do is we construct in our mind a formula which is borrowed from the internet and from our past conditioning of the ideal life. And then we say, I will never achieve that because my partner left me, I lost my job, my father was an alcoholic, I was abused as a child, blah, blah, blah. And we use that to say, that's the end. I mean, think about it, how we're wired biologically to survive. That person, like they say fasting, right? When you're fasting, your dopamine, as you don't have the food and you look at the food, and if anyone has done any fasting, when you're hungry in the day, right? and you anticipating that meal, your dopamine is just flying at that point. If you had to measure it, the closer you're getting to that meal, the more your dopamine is surging. So the whole point of life is to get right close to your goal. And that's why nature has made it, as soon as you get to your goal, what happens to you? You're like, it doesn't feel the way I thought it would. You know, like that moment last, the honeymoon phase, right? You're on honeymoon, and you know, it's the most beautiful relationship ever, and your body is actually in a very good state. And then afterwards, you're like, because we are designed to become used to what we see repetitively. So if you live in a beautiful house and you have the perfect partner and you're in perfect health, it's all so boring, right? We're so miserable because everything is working for us. So what we need is a great amount of anxiety in our life. So we manufacture anxiety on purpose. You see, if you know what you're doing, then you go ahead and do it, right? But if you believe that game of evolution to create more dopamine, and you become so invested in that, is that my life sucks, this is awful, I'll never get that, and I'll take my life. And you think, okay, right, you've obviously not understood the game of life. So that's a really important lesson to learn. Right, and it's so strong. It's a very good point. So most of the time, depression and anxiety and this absolute hopelessness is directly linked to how your body state is and the way you're feeling inside. So what you find, people who are depressed, what do? They sit around at home eating chocolate ice cream and what do they call, like soaking in their sorrows. What's the word? And that's like the worst thing to do to get out of depression, because what you need to do is to shake the body, move the body out of the mind, because the body then becomes automatic. And then so the mind creates the body and the body creates the mind, and you're in a vicious cycle. Getting out of it is to move the mind, is what the samurai say. They say that you should make the body savage and make the mind still. So you don't make the mind still, you make the body savage. When it says savage, it means have a lot of movement. So when you're feeling depressed, jump, shout, scream, go for a walk and be in nature, which is one particular way. But it's the underlying thing that I'm analyzing, in that our perception about what are you trying to achieve in your life, and why are you trying to achieve that, and what will you get out of it. And you know what you'll get out of it, and it's worth achieving, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be undertaking that journey. But what are you losing in the process by not understanding the game of evolution and the game of life? Because you're sitting there going, it's terrible, my bills are not paid, I'm not feeling great, I've got a headache, and whatever it is. And in that process, life is not being lived, because you've basically believed the false narrative that I can't be happy. Really, look at most of society, look at most of the conversations we have. It's the victim mindset, it's entrenched in us. The entitlement syndrome is like, life should be this way. He shouldn't be like that. My job should pay more. Look at this fucking idiot on the bus. He's got no consideration, right? Because you are entitled. So you walk around in life going, I expect life to give me more. That's the entitlement thing. But why does life have to give you what you ask from life? Because that's how we believe. That we can't appreciate life, and this is the whole thing. It's not even appreciation of the word. Can you celebrate what life is, instead of coming with expectations? Right. So I was in Italy recently, and I didn't realize my friend was in a construction zone house, and I went there, and here I am in the mountains. I was telling Naomi, Monferrato, and it's beautiful, and the weather is wonderful, and there I am going, I just can't believe I came all the way here. Like, what an idiot I am. It's terrible. You know? It's awful. And then I caught myself, and I'm saying, I'm not enjoying any of this wonderful experience. Now, how well did I do? That's the whole question. Right? Did I then snap out of it because I'm some kind of great sage, and then I started jumping and shouting, opening the windows and, celebrating life? No. I first recognized what's going on. And most people, self-awareness is the most important thing. If you don't have self-awareness, and what is self-awareness? It's your conditioned mind. It's those patterns that have been playing out for generations. Do you realize that you're thinking about what your parents thought about and what their parents thought about? Think about it. Analyze your thoughts. When you wake up in the morning, do you feel like embracing the day, jumping around, being excited to celebrate the moment? No. And then you listen to your thoughts and you realize, why am I thinking this? Like, whose thoughts are these? Have you ever analyzed it? Ask yourself why you can't be in a state of great joy right now. What's preventing you? Think about your own life. Is it the bothering relationship? Is it your health? Is it the money? What is that? That you can say, I can't yet until that happens. What happens? What is that thing? Right? You don't have to share it out loud, but ask yourself then, this thing that I have to get before I can celebrate life, is that my wanting, or is it something that I believe that I should be getting? Whose is that? Now ask the question. My mom and dad, what was that thing? And you have to ask carefully, because if you look on the surface level, you won't see it. What did they want? What did they say? I don't have the following. And you've inherited that, right? You've inherited that. What didn't they have that you don't have, right? Now, say for instance, you were raised poor. Well, you say, no, I've got money, so it can't be that. No. Ask yourself what they were thinking about all day, and what were they worried about, and what was their anxieties, what was their fears. And ask yourself deeply, am I not participating in that same thing? And the question I ask my clients is, what's your greatest fear? What's your greatest fear that will happen in the future? What's driving your fears? Because we're not driven by our joys, right? Are you driven by your joys? Or are you driven by your fears, right? What will end up happening if I relax now? What could happen? It's that fear that you have to go into. Anyone want to share their ideas of what is their greatest fear? It's a very personal thing. But let me give you an example. So people have the great fear of becoming sick, right? Because if they become sick, they become dependent. And if they become dependent, they won't be able to function the way that they used to. So their independence is what they're striving for. So unconsciously, we're moving towards the fear. We're not moving away from the fear. We will unconsciously be manifesting exactly that outcome. Because you think about your past, your parents, those things that they were most afraid of, if you just allow a broader range of perception, is what they became. You become what you fear, right? So that's why it's very important to know what's going on here. Why do I need this, right? And if I don't have that, will I end up like that? And if I end up like that, can I be okay with that? And then what you realize is that your parents, you didn't want to become like that thing that they became. So you spend all your life saying, I'll never become like that. Because that's what happened to them, and then you felt pain over it. So you spend the rest of your life making sure you never end up like them, because you didn't want to be that same thing that they were. And you end up becoming exactly that same thing. So that, yeah, does it make sense? Yeah? So then, if you don't want to end up becoming your fear, your greatest fear, then what do you need to do? You have to be okay with the inevitable outcome of what, for instance, one part is related to your parents, that my parents ended up doing this, like my parents got divorced. So you make sure that you find a partner who will never divorce you, that will always be loyal to you, right? And then you're always, because you don't want to end up like how mom and dad worked out and they were miserable, and I don't want to become like that. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be sad because you as a child may have felt that pain. But you're unconsciously manifesting that. So then the cure is to say, if I break up in my relationship and I screw up, I'll be okay with that. So now you are welcoming your greatest fear. And so for women, mostly it's the fear of rejection and the fear of being alone. It's the primary fear. For men, it's the fear of being inadequate and the fear of not having enough provision. Those are the things that drive them, because men are the providers, and they need to be strong, they need to be contributing to the world, and women need to be, and this is not a hard and fast rule because all the society's laws are changing, women need to be accepted, they need to be liked, and they don't want to end up being alone. Which then ends up, you're moving towards that fear and you will end up manifesting it. So then be okay with being poor, with being sick, with being alone. See, that doesn't sound very nice. You're saying, no, I don't want to accept that. Well, then you end up becoming that. So that's the whole irony of how in order to get what you want, you have to be okay with what you will never get. How does that make sense? No book on manifesting will ever tell you that. So then when you no longer fear what you may end up getting, you don't end up getting it. Because that's what Carl Jung talks about, the shadow. You integrate this part of you, which you didn't know was lurking. If I ask most people what their greatest fear is, I don't have any fears. And then if I do, they'll say, being naked in public. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but that's not the whole thing. Pretty much everybody walks around very close to naked anyway, so that doesn't really matter. But really, if you go into that, you go, but what is that? And then go search in your parents and your grandparents and look for the chain. When it hit me one day, it was just like, oh my God. And I started investigating my father's brothers and my mom's sisters. And then I saw my sister behaving exactly like, so example, right? She'll forgive me for saying that. What my mom used to do is complain about my dad all the time. He never does this. He doesn't do this. And he doesn't provide. And, he's lazy. And of course, my dad's sitting there going, what the hell, what else can I do, right? And then my mom used that as an excuse to get her health to deteriorate. And then her health just deteriorated because she was so miserable and so much resentment. That resentment is the worst emotion on the planet. Consumed by resentment, how people should be. They shouldn't be like entitlement, right? Like he shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that, and that consumes you, right? So responsibility is a big part. And then I said to my sister, I said, you're behaving exactly the way Mom used to. And she's like, yeah, but I know it, but she didn't get it. You don't get it. People don't get it. And then I started looking at my aunties. So the whole thing was on a Friday night, all the sisters would come to my grandma's house, their mom, and have a good complaint, right? About how their husbands were, because husbands are always inadequate and always, but is it true that all husbands can be this way and that they're the source of your problem, right? Think about it. All of you, the thing that you can't achieve, who's responsible for it? There's someone, right? There's someone, because that's what the ego mind does, right? It's like, it's his fault. It's she, it's like, it's my business partner. It's my life partner. And that's what Alfred Adler said so beautifully. All human problems stem from interpersonal relationship problems. That's where we have our problem. Think about it. You're sitting there going, something's pissing you off. There's always someone attached to that. Look carefully. You will see. Someone's blocking you from doing that. So recognize that and go into your own type of thing. So going back to nature, and going back to what nature does. Nature does, and nature doesn't hurry. So if you don't understand this part of why you want what you want, then you can't align with nature. So if you look at nature, nature's abundant. Nature, if you look at how cells operate, there's harmony in the cells. There's relationships with cells. Cells don't ever fight with each other. What cancer is a cell that says, you know what, screw all of you, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not participating in all of this. So that's what happens when you get out of alignment. And what gets you out of alignment? It's your ego, which is saying, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to play with these people anymore. If you look at children, like my 6-year-old, well, she's 8 now, but I refuse to accept that. You just throw her anywhere. And she's like, where are you from? Let's go. And then they're all of a sudden gone, right? And when we as adults go, we're like, yeah, I don't know. They're going to think of me like this, and they think of me, and we just have this great separation. This ego mind says, no, I don't want to. So to align with nature, you have to first know why you want what you want. Ask the question, why do I want what I want, right? And if I don't get it, am I okay with it? Because that resistance towards not being okay with it is what pushes you in that inevitable situation. You become what you fear most. And you attract what you are. You become what you fear most, and you attract what you are. So when you say that guy down the road is an absolute pain in the ass, that's because you're a pain in the ass, right? And when you find people always find people that you can't trust coming into your life, and you don't know how you manifest that, you created that. And it sounds horrible because, we don't want these things. We don't want this type of thing. So so the first thing, if something happened, like now, somehow I created this, right? Because I put the thing out and then I changed the venue and all the rest of it. So I have to accept responsibility, not blame. Not blame because the ego wants to blame. Because that's when it hurts. You're like, it's my fault. No. You're not understanding. Something in you manifested this. And you've got to look at it from a compassionate approach. Why did I manifest this? And that's why with my coaching, it's never about, I changed your life and all the rest of it. What did I get out of it? So that's the important thing to know in life. So how did you manifest the problems in your life? So you don't blame yourself. You take ownership of yourself. and you never expect from life, right? You give to life. That's the thing that I changed my approach, because I used to be very much about loving yourself, which I'm going to go into that, it's very important. Once you fall in love with life and you become highly spiritual, and everything is wonderful, and you spend all your time in massages and saunas and ice baths and all the rest, which I love doing as well. And then, you're just like, I don't like these toxic people and these narcissists, and you've got your little palace and your Instagram and your Facebook, and you've got deliveries at home and Amazon Prime, which is amazing, and you've built your little bubble. Surely, if you found that great source of joy within you, what would be the natural thing to do once you realize how precious life is? Because you hear these people, right, that are very optimistic. Life is so beautiful and so wonderful. I love my little bubble, right? What would happen if you fell in love with life? You'd say, I need to share this. I need to wake up in the morning and go tell people 10 people why they need to love life and how they should love life. But if it's not a true love of yourself and of life, what do? You avoid all the situations that you didn't face, right? And then you say, I've fallen in love with life and I'm greatly happy. And this is not criticism to them, but the only natural conclusion is, I found joy in my life, is that you share it. What does nature do? Nature doesn't, if nature embodied the thing of, I'm going to keep my joy to myself and, forget about that tree over there, and that olive tree looks ugly and fat, he needs to lose some weight, we wouldn't get anywhere, right? So there's this harmony. Nature gives, and everything is done so beautifully and magnificently, because we're not here for ourselves. So let me ask you the question. You want to be successful and healthy and happy and in love with your partner and all the rest of it. Why? What will you give in return to life? Because you were chosen out of billion, they say you take a sperm and look at the chances of you appearing on this planet at this time, and unconsciously or spiritually, you could say you chose to be in this time at this particular point in your life. What are you giving to life? So what are you giving back? Because nature gives. And you say, no, I will learn from what nature does, and then I will take my little pot of gold and my health and my happiness so I can live in my little bubble. And nature goes, yeah, I'm not playing your game. I'm not playing your game. But then, if you change it around and you go, I'm here to give, would you really need those things anymore? If all you had to do was be of service, would you need those things? Because you'd say every moment, and when I say service, I don't mean you should lower yourself and become a slave to people. But, how much are you enriching the lives of others? How much are you contributing to life? It's not a coach thing, it's not a selfish thing. Really, what did we get created for? So you got 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and maybe 120, the way people are wanting to live forever. But, what was the meaning of your life? We're in the time of the meaning crisis, right? We don't know what life is. What meaning have you assigned to your life? So I'm going to make my family happy. Itai and I, we both take care of our families. We provide for them and give them a house and then give them a car and then give them this and give them that. Have enough food on the table. And what did I do all of that for? What was it for? What did I take away from me? What is life? If people ask this question, what is the meaning of life? And people say, you can't ask that question, you shouldn't address that. But why are we here then? Are we just supposed to be on the rat race? I see how people live and they get 5 or 10 pounds. I remember I went out with some people for dinner, and we went out and they said, we'll go have Indian. I went for Indian and they said, we've only got 5 pounds each. You know how much is the bill? It was like 70 pounds. I was like, they said, we'd love to pay, but we don't have the rest of it. And say, the first instinct would be the entitlement syndrome. Like, what the hell? How did you take me out for dinner and now you want me to pay for it, right? You can't do that. You got to watch the ego, right? So I felt really sorry for these people. I said, how do you live like this? So you make 3,000 pounds and you pay 2,900 pounds, and then you're left with 100 pounds, and by the time you're done, at the end of the month, you've got 7 pounds left. And you think, of course, that doesn't feel great. And I'm not saying you should go make more money, but then instead of you sitting and look at this damn place and the taxes are so high and the weather is so bad, Naomi said, well, I relate to that because I'm like, I can't wait to get some sunshine. But then what did you do here on this planet? Like, what the hell did you do here? Like, what did you discover? Right? There's a wonderful line from the Sufi scriptures, and it says that God said, I was a hidden gem. Like, in other words, I knew I am something special. So I created man so that I could know myself. So it's like the universe, God, whatever, because religion is this terrible swear word these days, but whatever that thing is, created life as an expression, and through your blessed eyes, it sees its magnificence, right? So imagine if every moment was that celebration. Like I said to Maria, when I wake up in the morning, what do I manifest? Everybody wants to be calm and balanced, which is great. I manifest astonishment. So I look around and I'm just astonished at life, and I'm never disappointed. So wherever I go around, I'm astonished at people, at things, at places. I've been like so many countries this year, and what I found is this commonality of humanness that we are. I mean, it's like you'd think that we were strangers, you know? Was it, I think W.B. Yeats said that there are no strangers, just friends you haven't met yet, you know, which is this wonderful way of looking at the world. So have some questions and things. We'll take a little pause here. Yeah, you see these people there that I just want time for myself, and you're like, why did you have 16 things to do today? Oh, because I had to. No, you didn't. Right? You chose to do that because it stimulates you, which is good. Yeah, it becomes purpose, because if there's no purpose, so the whole thing is everybody's greatest achievement is what? What do we ultimately want? It's one word and it starts with F, and everybody wants that. Freedom. That's the one thing we want. But do you know what freedom looks like? You have a perception in your mind of what freedom is, and most people think freedom is being able to do whatever you want with whoever you want, or nobody, having to not do anything, which is the antithesis of life. Because freedom is actually being surrounded by many people, being most of service to people. And part of freedom is having something useful to do in your life. Yet we say we want to break out of it and we want to do nothing. Actually, doing nothing is not how we're designed. You'll actually find yourself very miserable. So your striving for freedom is very, like, think about it. This ground, I remember reading in the Zen thing, is that the ground supports your feet, right? So if the ground wanted to be free, you wouldn't have anything to work on, right? But so freedom is contribution. Freedom is having so many people around you. And that's the whole thing when they did the surveys of the blue zones and people that lived over in the, over 100, is that what was common amongst all these people is that they had someone to take care of, that their lives had deeper meaning, that it was never about themselves only, right? I remember, that window is open, that's why. Yeah. So then freedom is being entangled in life, right? But is that your idea of freedom? Right? You'd love freedom, but you don't want anybody around you that irritates you. But guess what? You are the one that causes the irritation. It's not what people say. Like somebody said, I'm so angry because he said that. So they spent 3 days in anger because someone said that. What is that? So someone said something, and you spent 3 days stewing over it. So, like, is it what they said? What's carrying on now? What was said was said. What's carrying on? Your internal dialogue and your expectation that I should never be like that. I remember when I went on my spiritual journey, and I was told, you are not allowed to expect anything from life. Nothing. Anything that you get is a gift to you. And I said, wow, so this person can insult me and I should be okay with it? Yes. You should go around in the world looking for how you do not have any entitlement over anything. Nobody and nothing owes you anything. And it's the most difficult thing in the world to do. Try it. Try it. Because you get a warm cup of coffee, you got a cold cup. Like for me, I'm hugely, insistent on coffee. Again, it can ruin my day if the coffee is cold, right? So now I've got to sit there going, okay, yes, I'm not entitled to anything. I'm sitting there, sipping that cold cup of coffee. And, that does your ego, like your ego is just like, I don't like this spiritual business. I want to go out and get whatever I want. And that was one of the greatest things that I overcame. Now I'll have my coffee and I'll make sure it's hot. But the moment it's cold, I don't lose my shit. Before, I did, because I expected the world to be a certain way and people to be a certain way. That's what freedom is, right? That's the definition of freedom. Can I be free of expectation? So I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be with the perfect person. I don't want to be in in Ibiza or wherever you guys go for a holiday. It'll be nice if it happens, but I have no expectation. Now you're living free of expectation, and everything that you get becomes this wonderful gift. Like, oh, this warm coffee tastes so good. Otherwise, you go around every time you have warm coffee. Well, I expected the warm coffee, right? So that's the first half of it. Now the second half of it. Now that you know what you want and why you want it, how to manifest that. See, manifesting, if manifesting was a perfect science, then everybody would get everything they wanted, and we'd have a very toxic and very, what's the word? Nihilistic? No, it's more like, it would be a terrible place to live if everybody got what they wanted. So life has made sure that some people get it and some people don't. So part of it is that I don't want it, I don't need it for my existence, but it would be nice to get. Now, all of what I said aligns so beautifully with the sacred laws of life and the law of attraction. What we call the law of attraction was something that was created and invented, and not something that was known. It was known as something very different before, from the times of the Egyptians. And so what we call the law of attraction was made famous by, he said, the secret is the feeling. Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard basically learnt his art of law of attraction from a rabbi, actually, and he taught him the sacred arts of law of attraction and what this is. And if you go into it, you'll find that the law of attraction is whatever I've said is the law of attraction. And then you'd say, but that doesn't make sense, because your idea of the law of attraction, not you guys, because a lot of you have spent time with me and have irritated the crap out of you redefining what that is, right? It's like, but so you don't just sit there going, I want to be rich, I'm terrible because I'm poor, I want to be healthy because I'm sick, so I'm not happy. But you guys know this game. Now let's look what the law of attraction says. If it aligns with this approach, if you can change this approach to life, then does it mean you're going to manifest everything that you set out to manifest? So you write on the piece of paper, right? What is it that you want? What is it that you want, and why do I want it? Right? Think about everything that you want in your life. What do you get out of the thing that you want at the end? What do you get out of it? Right? Do you get the thing? So you want 10 million pounds. So put 10 million pounds on the table. What do you get out of it at that moment? What do you get? A feeling. Right? If you want perfect health, and I say you're in perfect health, what do you get? The feeling. Right? I want to be highly successful and become whatever it is. What do you get? How long does that feeling last? A day, two, got to 10 million pounds, you go on your yacht and you buy caviar and listen to some operas, which I highly recommend. But then, what do you do then? What's that feeling when you've achieved that thing? There's nothing, right? So then, instead of living in the future of achieving that thing, and so I will live in a terrible state right now all the time until I get that feeling. So how about you live like every single moment in that feeling of having achieved that without wanting to achieve that? That's the secret. That's the trick, right? Because you say, well, what's the point? But what you want out of that is not the thing. You want the feeling of the thing. So how about you shortcut 40 years of your life and start living in that feeling? And guess what the law of attraction says? The law of vibration, the 7 sacred principles revealed by Hermes Trismegistus, who is the beginning of all of this, and is known in the sacred text as well as Enoch, right? He was one of the prophets, right? And then in all the other texts, he's referred in the Egyptians as Thoth, and he was this man who knew the sacred laws of the universe, and the laws which Maria wrote down for me. I got Maria to write the few lines for me because I can't read my own handwriting. So that's wonderful. So the principle of mentalism. So the first law is all is mind. Everything that you see around you is created by mind. It's the most empowering and important thing. All of existence that you see is not out there. So if you were not here, would this world exist? You can't answer that question, can you? So then maybe you being here in your mind is creating all of existence. And if that's true, maybe you can do something with what you've created and what you can change. Right? Because if it's all mind and I created this reality, then I can surely somehow navigate it. What you can change and what you can't change is what we need to talk about. What you can change is the feelings and the vibrations. What you can't change is the outward form, because the inward vibrations create the outward form. Right? So I'll explain that. So the universe is mental, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, and the principle of polarity. So polarity, everything is vibration. The whole universe is vibration. Everything is vibration. And the music people here can relate to that, right? Because you can hear what music is vibration. So your vibration, what you want at the end of that thing that you want, is to feel that state of feeling, right? And I'm saying this is where I differ from most people, is that the law of attraction says, if I keep on playing this game, then the universe will finally give me that thing. And I'm saying, you're going to be trapped in that. Because you're never going to get that thing that's going to resemble the thing in your mind. Because if I say to you, what does success look like? You have a picture in your mind, right? But is that what it's going to look like? You have a picture of perfect health and a good family and a perfect spouse. And then you get there and you're like, is this it? Why? Because the imagination in your mind never meets the reality, right? So then what you have to do is to live in the feeling right now. So in other words, I don't no longer, because I know the game, deprive myself of that feeling. I can feel that way at every single instant as much as I want to. And if that thing comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, because remember, it's a figment of your imagination, all is mind, right? So you're saying, okay, I'll try to be happy now, but that's not the thing. No, this law of vibration thing doesn't work. It does not, I'm not getting what I wanted. That's the problem, right? So the whole thing is to focus on the feeling and teach your body what that feeling feels like, right? So how does it feel to be that? And what that feeling feels like is the feeling of connectedness, right? Because that's what you want. You want to feel, I've achieved it. So you want to feel achievement. You want to feel relief. You want to feel, you know what? It was worth putting up with all that shit because I finally got that thing that I wanted. But you know you're kidding yourself, right? You know you're kidding yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you know it's not worth it. You know you're not going to get that thing in that way that you expected it to be. Does that mean you shouldn't go and achieve it? No. But what you should do is that if you have this desire in your heart to do those things, go after them, but with a new energy. Not an energy of entitlement, of sadness, of anxiety, of frustration. But you know what? I would love to achieve them. But as in that process, as I'm achieving them, I want to ride that feeling, because your body's craving that feeling and you're neglecting your body and you're saying, I can't have that feeling until I get that thing. So enjoy the ride. Otherwise, what would be the point? Right? And this wonderful thing of John Wheeler, which I think I've all quoted you, John Wheeler was this very intelligent quantum physicist, and he said, out of all my research into life, what I've discovered into science and the quantum universe is that we live in a participatory universe. So that means that if you heard of the observer effect, is an experiment they've done in quantum science, is that when they're examining something, observing something is like a double-slit experiment. I won't go into details, but so a simple example that I use is that here's a mouse and there's two boxes. So they have a mouse, they have two boxes. Which box does the mouse go into? We don't know the answer. It goes into, according to the experiments, the box that you think the mouse will go into. So the observer effect is that you participate in the experiment. And the instrument that measures the instrument that measures the experiment influences the outcome of the experiment. Can you understand the implications of that? Yes, but you're creating that reality. So you're creating the problem and you're creating the solution, right? So then if we live in a participatory universe and what you see happening out there is happening in here, then if you change what's happening in here, then surely what you're happening out there changes, right? But it's not what's happening. It's so the thing is, what's bothering you is what you have to work towards, not the things that you want to achieve. You see? Because the thing you want to achieve will take care of itself, whether you get it or not. What's pushing you towards that is this anxiety of, I haven't got that thing. But if you examine this anxiety of why I don't have that thing, whether you get it or not is immaterial. But you're more likely, according to the law of attraction, you're more likely to get that. So if we live in a participatory universe and every day you're celebrating life and you're celebrating achievement and wholeness and freedom, right? Freedom all the time. It's like if you can. So how do you do that? It's not a mind thing. It's a body thing. You've got to teach the body neurologically what that emotion feels like, right? And very much of so the things that I do, what I do is I sit and let's do this exercise for a moment. So I always use my heart. Okay, so you can put your hand over your heart and close your eyes and just sort of sink into your eyes for a moment. So I want you to, instead of you thinking about this, I want you to say to yourself internally, right? My heart is full of love. Now, I want you to feel what it feels like in a world where your heart is full of love for everything and everyone, including yourself. How does that feel? What does a heart full of love mean? And do you remember a time when your heart was full of love for everything and everyone? And especially your life as it is right now. What does it feel like to be fully in love with the life that you have right now? How does that feel? And if you feel deeply, it would lead to tears. It would lead to tears from the heart. What a privilege it is, right? Of what it feels like to be fully in love with life. Feel fully in love with life because you're allowed to. Despite what you think you can't, but feel that. And then feel what it feels like to have a soul in absolute stillness, where inside you is this absolute stillness, absolute alignment, absolute knowing, absolute wholeness that I don't need one more thing to celebrate this moment. Nothing stops me from fully loving this moment and feel what it feels like to fully love this moment in the most richest and comprehensive of ways. And feel what it feels like to know that you are living in the life that is being taken, that you're being taken care of. Like everything is being taken care of. Feel what that feels like to know deeply that everything is being taken care of. And I'm going exactly where I'm meant to be going. And that all my soul's desires will be met. Feel out what that feels like deeply, through your heart, not a concept in your mind. Feel what inner stillness feels like. And feel like what letting go feels like. What does letting go feel like? Like just letting it all go. All your expectations, all your demands, all your requirements before you can feel joy. What does it feel like if you just, for this moment, not forever, just let it all go and be absolutely in love with this moment? What does that feel like in every neuron, in every cell in your body? What does it feel like to just give yourself a break? Just give yourself this moment. What does it feel like to connect to nature, to the trees and to the oceans and to everything happening in perfect harmony in the planets? What does that vibration feel like? Perfect alignment, where everything is happening in such perfect harmony. The sun sets and rises perfectly, everything, the ocean, the waves, the current, the water flowing. What does that feel like deeply within you? It's not a concept. What does it feel like? Feel like all the cells in your body just open, receptive to life. Every cell, 3 trillion cells in your body just going, I love life. I desire life. What does it feel like to just let go and allow yourself to breathe the joy of life? And allow your heart to sing again and your heart to dance again. What would that be feeling like? And why can't you? Ask yourself, why can't you? Why not now? Breathe that into your heart. And now, while you're here, I'd like you to imagine the thing that you want, the thing that you desire, or the state that you desire, or who will be around, or what would appear, and how it would look in every single way. Go ahead and imagine this particular moment in time, or moments in time into the future, where you will achieve that thing. And go into that as much detail as possible. Who will be there? What will be happening? What will you be hearing? Who will you be surrounded by? How will you be feeling? How will you be feeling? How will wholeness feel like then, when you let go of everything, because now you've arrived at that feeling, at that point where you can finally just let go. How does that feel, to finally have achieved that thing that you wanted, and now there's nothing else to achieve? What does that feel like? And feel that feeling so deeply. And realize, if you remove everything from your mind about that thing that you want to feel, grab hold on the feeling and let that feeling match the feeling you felt a moment ago, and make that feeling the same feeling, and celebrate this feeling and get to know this feeling and become familiar with this feeling. Because this is what you ultimately been craving all your life, is that feeling. And so stop depriving yourself of that feeling. It's you're entitled to it. And you're allowed, give yourself permission to feel in every cell of your body all those emotions that you're putting on hold, and all those feelings. And let that be your state of being. Grab hold of it and realize your alignment to all of life and every single human being in every situation, and every planet and every constellation out there, and every distant galaxy that they find. You are in alignment with all of that. So let go and allow yourself this moment to fall in love with life in all its complexity and beauty. And then take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and let that soak through your body. Take your time, soak it in. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I was woken up at like 1 a.m. by a dream. And in this dream, there was this young man, and I looked into his eyes, and I said, can you take me here? And he said, yeah, I can take you there. And I realized that he was just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I grabbed his face and I said to him, it's okay. Like, you don't need to set expectations on yourself. You're allowed to love yourself, and you're allowed to fall in love with life. And then he burst out crying, and I hugged him. And I thought, why do I remember that? And I thought, maybe it's a message. And maybe that's the message to you, that you're allowed to hug yourself. You're allowed to love life. You're allowed to fall in love with life. And you don't have expectations from the world that you've set on yourself. It's not the world, it's what you've set on yourself. So thank you very much. I think we can finish it off there. And if you've got any questions, you're welcome to. If you haven't got a copy of my book, it's at the back there. I think most of you have. Yeah, so do I. And it's a very good question. Yeah, it's your daily routines and the self-awareness. Those two things put together. The self-awareness, in other words, how am I feeling right now? Why am I thinking that? Or noticing. It's not about why. Another client of mine is like, yeah, I've got all these questions. I said, no, notice and say, oh, there I am doing it again. I'm like anxious and I'm upset. Because if you go, look, you're an idiot, stop doing that. You don't need to do that. It's a very terrible. So self-awareness throughout the day, right? Like when I wake up in the middle of the night, I used to always, like, if I had to go pee or I had a dream or something, I would always just wake up like, and then I said, why am I so like uncomfortable waking up in the middle of the night? So now I force myself and I go, and then I go to the bathroom and I'm like, and then I lie down, and a lot of times I can't fall asleep because I'm so excited about how much I've done. And then I wake up in the morning. It's those times. It's before bed, and in the middle of the night, and in the mornings is when you need to catch that state, right? So self-awareness is one thing, and then patterns. There's making the unconscious conscious, right? Going from autopilot to take charge manually. And so everything becomes intentional. And then when you forget, then you Do those things that make you remember, right? And it's not thoughts. So get into the feeling. Daily routines are the secret. And you know my morning routine that I have on YouTube. If you, I'll share it with you if you like. Just setting an intentional start to the day. But the whole point is not to manifest a day that goes according to the way you want it to. Is that you manifest a day where you're so observant to the way life is. And that's a very good point, because it's the last point I want to mention, that you can actively participate in life, and that life will participate in the way that it has destined for you. And your acceptance of a life the way it has destined for you, along with you participating in creating your life, that's what a participatory universe is. You're participating and that life is participating. So what you have to master is witnessing. Witnessing your participation in life and life's participation in you. If you know the cycle that you're in and the wave that you're in, that's when you have to, you up here going, okay, I'm trying to do this, life's trying to do that. And what if life is trying to take me here and I'm insisting that it should be this way, right? And then you go with that wave and you follow that wave and you're constantly witnessing as life does its thing, always with the lens of compassion, of hope, of joy, of meaning. And so it's a meaning, right? So if you know the meaning of it, and so that's the man of the moment is the whole thing. Can you be the man, the woman, the person of the moment, embracing the moment from a level of awareness, and you can't embrace the moment of awareness from the mind, right? It's that observation. That's what's happening. So in conversation is the number one thing. Someone says something and everybody assumes from a level of awareness that they are. And as a coach, some of you done my coach training, do not assume, right? So if I say it's cold outside, what happens in your mind, right? You'll say, yeah, I think it's cold outside too. Oh, maybe I should offer him a jumper, right? Or maybe he's from Africa and he thinks it's cold. All this kind of stuff is just, so there's no actual differentiation between the statement. Now, how does that apply to your life, right? I didn't get the deal that I was supposed to get. Now, the extra dialogue is, I'll probably fail at the next one. What did I do wrong? I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do. No, it is what it is. And if you can observe that without the dialogue, you now no longer, because what ends up happening is that we sabotage our future because we're sitting there going, yeah, well, this is never going to happen. Nothing ever will happen. I'm going to screw it up again. What did I do wrong? And all this extra chatter leaves you with a feeling. So the thing that I said to a friend of mine yesterday is that the thoughts that I'm thinking, how does that make me feel? And the feelings that I'm feeling right now, are they the ones that I want to be feeling right now? And if they're not, you have the choice of saying, I'm not going down that conversation. Or even you're having a conversation with someone, you're talking about the recession and the global crisis, and you're going, how is that making me feel? Right? You can still talk about the recession and the global crisis, but how are you describing that? And if you realize that it's coming from this low place inside, like, you know, you're basically spewing at life. And that feeling is exactly anti-law of vibration, because you're manifesting a reality. And guess what happens next? Someone else speaks that way and does those things, and that the universe actually changes. What happens if you could influence the news and the wars happening? What happens if you are participating in the wars out there by your energy? You know, there was a study done by HeartMath, right, about measuring the frequency. So maybe we're all feeling like we want to, you know, smack someone over the head, and we're all miserable out of life. What happens if the world out there is a reflection of our state of being? So if we change our state of being, will we now, seriously, try this. Start getting different news updates. I start getting different things. I'm like, no, I love the world and nothing wrong with the world. And I'm expecting a beautiful day. I'm going to be astonished. So a friend of mine will go and he has this very, you know, dark view of the life, and he'll wake up tomorrow and say, do you know what happened? And I know what I'm going to hear, right? And then I would say, you know what happened? And he knows what he's going to expect from me, and he hates hearing that stuff because it goes against his narrative. So what is your narrative? Are you optimistic and joyful? And I'm not talking about positivity, but are you in love with life? Are you like astonished by every moment, waiting for life to surprise you with its gifts and its astonishment? And if you find that, you start finding more of that. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit on the top of the mountain or in the beautiful nature. It's in life, right? Good question. Anybody else? Does that answer your question? All right, well then we'll finish it off there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now that you've had some time to have a look at what the law of attraction is using nature, I've put together a masterclass that will allow us to take us on a journey into discovering the things that we ultimately want. Now, there are many courses out there that are claiming that after the course you'll be rich and you'll be famous and you'll be in a loving relationship, and I'm not saying they're lying, but I'm saying I can't guarantee you that if I'm being honest with myself. And also, I don't go around telling you about all my great accomplishments and what I've achieved in my relationships and in my life and the stillness and peace inside of me and the love that I feel inside of me, because those are the things that ultimately matter to me. And what you'll discover if you undertake a masterclass with me is that those things that you wanted so badly that would make you feel a sense of completeness and of wholeness and feeling alive were actually not the things that you want. You will get those things, but they won't mean that much to you. And if you don't get them, you will not have wasted a life living in a state of lack, saying, well, one day I will get those things. And that's the whole point, is that the law of attraction is really about how to manifest a reality and a vibration that is in line with the life that you want to live, rather than the things that you want. As many of us have a list of things that we want this and we want that, and when we get those things, we can say that it worked and that the things that we chased after we got. But in actual fact, it's more about the state of being that you want to live by as those things come to you. And whatever's meant to come to you will come to you. Can you somehow influence that? Yes. How much you can influence that? I don't know, because nobody knows all the secrets of the universe. All I know is that when I'm in a high state of vibration, and when I'm feeling gratitude, and I'm feeling love, and I'm feeling a sense of deep peace within me, things do get attracted to me. And that is what John Wheeler, the great physicist, said, is that he discovered from all his research is that we live in a participatory universe. In other words, what we put out there is what we get back. Now, if you put out there positive vibes and a high vibration, not faking it and, positive manifestations and, my life is so great and I've got everything that I want, but actually feeling that. And the problem is, we don't know how to feel like that. I didn't. So I had to learn that. So I put together this masterclass in order for us to learn how to live in a higher state of vibration and a higher state of being that is aligned with the feelings we will get from the things that we want. I'll repeat that. We want to live at the vibration of the things that we want, because when we get those things, it's the feelings that we want to feel. So we're feeling those feelings every day, and we are already feeling as if though we've already achieved those things. Then how would we be living? And would we be wasting this time, this precious moments of our lives in a state of, I don't have that, or living in a state of, if I get that, it's great, but right now I can make joy and I can turn what I have in my life into a celebration, into a joy. And that's what we're putting together. And so the whole program is designed around keeping you accountable, making sure that you do daily routines that keep you focused on feeling those vibrations. And when you have a group feeling, and we've run this course many times, the feeling from the group and people sharing on the group and people encouraging each other, and then miracles happen. What we call a miracle is simply something that is not experienced in everyday experience. But does that mean that miracles don't exist and there's some type of anomaly? No, miracles happen every day. We're just not present enough to see them and feel them. That's why I put together this class for a group of us to come together. It's not going to be massive, and we share and we get to know each other, and then we get to know and we get to share about all those things that we say we want in order to complete us, and realize how there's nothing lacking in this moment. And it's not to understand there's nothing lacking in this moment, it's to feel so deeply. I don't think most of us have ever felt the feeling of feeling truly alive, of feeling truly at peace, of feeling truly at one with creation, with everyone and everything, in every time, in every place. Once you get that feeling, trust me, there is no other feeling that you ever want to chase after. It is the ultimate feeling. So like Neville Goddard, the guru, the man who brought the law of attraction to the West, said, The secret is in the feeling, and our work, if you join the masterclass, will be to understand you and the things that you want and why you want them, and then to go about creating the vibration equivalent to those things that you want, and then to live in a state of wholeness and completeness while those things come to you. Because if they don't come, you would have not have wasted a life. I couldn't stress this over enough. Why waste your life living in lack, living in sadness because you don't have this and someone else has this? What a waste of this precious gift of life. And so that's what I aim to teach and what I aim to inculcate. And from a group feeling, you'll see how living in this new state of vibration changes your life literally, because you're not changing things out there, you're changing things within. And that's the most powerful thing ever. So if you're serious about being kept accountable and you're not expecting you join a course and all of a sudden tomorrow morning the Lamborghini arrives and your perfect partner arrives and your perfect health arrives, then you will not be kidding yourself, because other people are selling you the stuff, and I don't sell snake oil. I'm very proud of what I achieved in my life. I'm not going to go about telling you all the great things that I've achieved, but I can tell you that the moments that I have of inner bliss are priceless. And since I've learned these methods, my life has become extraordinary, and people around me have benefited so much from this as well. And I'm hoping that you benefit just as much from this and live in the state that you ultimately deserve to live in.